Avi, what's your take on Roswell, New Mexico?
Yeah, so I was in Vegas in the company of 800 women, and one of the questions asked by the director of the Johnson Space Center, um, she asked me, she said that the place is very close to where we are, and what do you think about it? And the response was that, um, I haven't seen any evidence that convinces me, scientific evidence of what's happening there. It may well be the case that what people claim did happen there. I haven't seen the evidence, therefore I cannot say anything. If I'm presented with solid evidence, I will be convinced. But there are all these stories, and it's just like eyewitness testimonies that you don't know whether to believe because it's not documented by instruments that you have direct access to. And maybe there was something there. So I'm agnostic. I'm completely it's not as if I deny it. It's not as if I believe it. I say I don't have strong enough evidence that I saw to indicate one way or the other.
Right. When CJ asked you earlier if the Pentagon asked you to join a task force, would you do it? It reminded me of someone I wanted to get your hot take on because you sort of remind me historically of this figure, Dr. J. Allen Hynek and Project Blue Book. Perhaps they would ask you to be a part of Project Blue Book Part 2.
Well, one has to keep in mind history does not repeat itself in this way because now we have much better instruments than were available back then. Okay, and the data is of higher quality, especially with government-owned sensors. There weren't satellites of the quality that we have now in terms of their optics and so forth, and electronics and so forth. So presumably, if there is high quality data, it would be easier to analyze scientifically, and to arrive at conclusions. So, don't think about it as history repeating itself, because we currently have instrumentation that was never available before. And the way I see it is as an opportunity to figure out the reality that we live in. It's just like the invention of the telescope. Before it was available, we couldn't see things that are faint or far away. And so you can't say that whoever looked through a telescope is like the first person that looked at the sky with bare eyes, because you could see things that are not visible to the bare eye, And so my point is, I don't know what kind of data the government has, but now we are much better positioned than Hynek was, and it's not. I don't blame him. It's not. It was not up to him. It was basically the kind of instruments used at the time and kind of data that was collected, and so. And by the way, it's not about one person or another. It's about figuring out what's out there. And the fact that Galileo was the first to look through a telescope and conclude that maybe the Earth, moves around the sun based on what he saw through the telescope, does not make him responsible for the fact that the Earth moves around the sun. That was true long before him, and it will continue to be true for a long period of time. And so it's not really about the person who is looking through the telescope. It's more about what the image shows. And that's all I want to know. Once I will know that, I don't care how many people believe it, don't believe it, whether it's liked or not, because I will know that it's reality. The Earth continued to move around the sun, even though Galileo was put in house arrest. That didn't change anything. And what people do to each other is completely. We're dealing with the reality that we all share, and the reality is whatever it is. And whether we, tweet bad things about each other or convince each other whether we should look at data or not look at data, whether we use good data, whether we ignore the data, all of this is completely irrelevant. It's out there, and we just need to figure it out. And the main thing in this context is figuring out whether we are looking at human-made things, natural things, or something else.
Or something else.
That's